ClueCon Weekly, the FreeSwitch community's official web show. Tune in every week for updates in the FreeSwitch project, interesting presentations, and interact with members of the FreeSwitch community. ClueCon Weekly is brought to you by FreeSwitch Solutions, the officially endorsed consulting firm of the FreeSwitch project. FreeSwitch Solutions solves problems so you can focus on your business. Visit freeswitch.com for more information. The ClueCon WebRTC and Telephony Developers Conference. ClueCon is held every August in the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois. Meet the developers of all your favorite open source telephony projects, make the connections you need to meet your business goals, and see the latest and greatest technology in WebRTC and telephony. Visit ClueCon.com for more details.
All right, guys, welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Today is June the 29th, and we've got Bogdan from the OpenSIPs project joining us, and he'll be here to talk about OpenSIPs and some things that they've got coming up and some good things with OpenSIPs. So you guys stand by for that. Coming up first, I believe, we've got Brian West. He wants to tell you a little something about ClueCon. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. How's everybody else?
Is that the laptop?
Sure everybody gets to see the laptop that we're going to give away this year. Don't forget to get your registration in as soon as possible. Call 877-74-A-CLUE if you have questions, or you can register on our website at ClueCon.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, twitter.com/ClueCon, facebook.com/ClueCon. To stay updated on the events as they progress. It's coming down to the wire, so updates are coming out more often. So keep an eye out. We have some fun stuff going on. Kathleen's going to tell us about the party on Wednesday and some of the other elements we have going on as well.
Thanks, Brian. And over to Kathleen.
Well, first, we had a feature go into SpanDSP for the week in review. Just some variables to make SpanDSP start tone detect easier to use from the dial plan. So if you use that, go over, check it out. And the bug hunt has moved to Tuesday. So be sure to mark your calendars for that. It's a great way and a prime opportunity to get in touch with the community, ask questions, get help with testing, unique use cases, or just to hang out, you know. If you want to come and and just chat, that's good too. So as for ClueCon announcements, we have the Coder Games Monday, the first day. We've got some awesome games planned, some cool IoT and 3D printing elements. So be sure to register for those. We do have sort of a little free registration set up so that we can get an idea of how many people would like to participate. With the IoT stuff and the hardware, we like to have an idea ahead of time. So if you're interested in competing, please head over and register for that as well. Like I said, it's free registration. We just like to get an idea of how many people would like to participate in that. Evening activities. We have the Gigabit reception, which is going to be kind of exciting. It's a great networking opportunity. You can get in, have a few drinks, talk with everybody, sort of a big meet and greet. And that's Tuesday night. And then this year we have a wonderful new party. Telnex is hosting a party on Wednesday night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Games, music, drinks, and it'll be a really good time over there. So that'll be really cool. So be sure to RSVP when you register, whether or not you'd like to go to that, so we make sure you can get on the bus and don't miss it. We also have a preliminary schedule posted on the ClueCon website. So go check that out, get an idea of what's coming. That will change. We're going to be adding some things and maybe moving some things around as we get closer, but it's there. You can go check it out, kind of get an idea of what we're going to be doing. And if you have any questions, you can call Brian or reach out on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, email us directly at marketing@cluecon.com, or chat with us in our HipChat channels or IRC. HipChat would be hipchat.freeswitch.org or IRC #freeswitch. So yeah, I think that's about it. Oh,
All right,
training! No, wait, Ken, training. I almost
yeah.
forgot. We have 2 trainings this year. Not only do we have the official FreeSwitch training going on, which you can also register for, but we have OpenSIPs training. The
Yeah,
OpenSIPs
Bogdan wants to
guys.
tell us about that some more too.
Yeah, he'll tell you in a minute, but you can go and go register for that too. So that's it.
Yeah. So hey, Bogdan, how are you doing today?
Hi, Ken. I'm well. Thank you. Yeah, about the training, it's for the first time when we want to do an let's say a mixed training, because more or less when you want to build systems, it's not just about a simple piece of software. We want to actually help people to understand how to build an complete solution, and that will involve OpenSIPs, will involve FreeSwitch, will involve Homer for SIP capturing, will involve CG rates for billing. So we have multiple elements that we want to combine in this training, because once again, probably when you build platforms, maybe 80% of the effort goes into the integration part, and to, let's say, accumulate knowledge from different projects, how to put them together, and so on and so on. So for this year, we want to actually address this integration problem. It's not a 100%, let's say, only OpenSIPs training. We will have actually people from the SIP capturing / Homer project, Lorenzo and Alexander. We will have people from the CG rates project, Dan, and also people showing different special topics like end user fraud detection and so on. I put together like 2 simple slides to show what we want to address, and well, actually what we want to achieve with the training. And briefly, it's a platform where you have an OpenSIPs front end, of course, front ending on a FreeSwitch cluster like a PBX or Class 5 system, and doing mid-registration, balancing and clustering with OpenSIPs, routing to PSTN, and security. Obviously, that's something important. Addressing fraud detection, traffic checking, and so on. And as already said, how to integrate all these with billing, with TG rates, and with the well-known Homer capturing tool. And here it's nice because Homer actually supports capturing traffic from both OpenSIPs and FreeSwitch. So it will be like how you can build platforms and integrate the all tools together. In terms of, let's say, kind of a small diagram to show you what's the goal. We have the OpenSIPs front end talking to the user agent clients and carrier. So basically that's front ending the public side, and FreeSwitch doing all the heavy work in terms of logic for the routing, for the registration, for the Class 5 services, and so on and so on. So the training starts, I wouldn't say from zero. There are some requirements to have some basic understanding of a SIP and so on, but it will give you hands-on experience in how to put together all these entities. So at the end, you'll have a working system combining FreeSwitch, OpenSIPs, Homer, and CG rates, and actually doing something useful, kind of a simple in terms of features platform for, let's say, a Class 5 service.
Cool. Yeah, so you guys can go and register for this. You guys can hit up ClueCon.com, and when you register for ClueCon, it's actually an option there, so you guys can register right there on the ClueCon website and click the register button, and you can sign up not just for ClueCon there, but you can also sign up for the OpenSIPs training right there. Or if you want to go to just the FreeSwitch training along with ClueCon, you can get it there. Just keep in mind that the FreeSwitch training and the ClueCon training, excuse me, the OpenSIPs training, those will happen at the same time, and there are limited spaces in both ones, so you'll want to get your registrations in for those now to make sure you've got your spot reserved. Also, this year at ClueCon, don't forget, we've got a lot of different guests coming, and we are working on the schedule, and that's going to be trickling out more and more over the next week or so. So you guys follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and keep up with the social media things, because Kathleen and myself will be putting those announcements out on there as that keeps up. And as always, if you go to cluecon.com/schedule, the calendar is right there. You'll be able to see it, and it is done with Google Calendar this year, so you can actually grab the link for that, add it to your calendar, and you'll be able to see the schedule as we update it and get more stuff going there. You'll also want to keep your hands on that calendar and keep an eye on it, because if there's any last-minute changes, that's where you'll know about it also. So thanks, guys. Get your registrations in now. And again, I'm going to turn things back over to Bogdan here. For you guys that don't know Bogdan, he's been around the SIP and open source arena for quite a while now. He is the leader of the OpenSIPs project, which is one of the handful of high performance SIP proxy router. It has a different function than what you might expect out of FreeSwitch, so you find it used a lot with FreeSwitch and other platforms like FreeSwitch. So Bogdan, you want to tell everybody, introduce yourself a little bit more and take it away?
Sure, thank you, Ken. Well, to summarize, I am with the SIP world, with the open source world since roughly 2001. So it's a bit of a history behind that. Let's say, lead to quite some experience and knowledge in terms of the SIP world, how to put things together. And to be honest, I'm, let's say, really proud in terms of what we managed to deliver via the OpenSIPs project. Definitely, it's not my only my contribution. It's quite a whole team, a lot of external contributors building this project. But our goal as the project, from the project perspective, is to build an let's call it a generic SIP server that it's able to solve problems for, generically said, for industry. So for people who actually wants to build SIP services out there in the real world. So we have our main policy in terms of project is to get feedback, to look around to the people using building platforms, to see what they need and to try to meet their needs with OpenSIPs. That's for the project side. Of course, let's say we are strongly motivated with the project, because that's the only thing that we do. We actually make a living outside this project with training, with solutions, and so on. So basically, let's say all our effort goes into this project. And so far was, I would say, really good outcome in what would be maybe 15 years. So it's quite a while. It will be even difficult for me to think about doing something else. Let's say if it comes to, it's more or less what I did for the more or less my whole life after the university. I would like to talk a bit, at least to share with you some news from the latest release, and also to share some news when it comes to what we plan to do and what we have on the table. things that will be presented at the ClueCon conference. So some interesting things that you will be able to do with the OpenSIPs, and mainly it's about integration with FreeSwitch. But first, if we go back to the slides, there is the main thing that we are proud of. It's the main focus of the latest 2.2 release, which is actually the clustering support. Of course, everything started with, okay, you have first to build like a simple HA solution, a availability solution with an active and a backup. You have to synchronize stuff between. Then slowly it evolved as, okay, let's do an active, and why only two active, why not three active, and so on, servers. So basically, the concept of clustering is to put together as many SIP servers you want to work together in delivering a consistent and a single kind of service. The clustering support was available also in the previous version, but with what we call the old model, which actually hit a limitation. Basically, all the synchronization, communication, or sharing of all the OpenSIPs nodes in the cluster was done via an NoSQL database. So basically, each server was publishing into that database its own data, and the other ones were reading. So this had two major disadvantages. First is the fact that the aggregation point, this NoSQL, basically lacks intelligence to understand actually the nature of the data which is stored into the database. And secondly, it becomes on bottleneck. We had the experience, because once again, the whole OpenSIPs project is driven by the experience we have or our user have in real situations. So we had the situation where there were like 3 servers doing around 5,000 calls per second, and then they had to exchange information about the call per second, so the call rate limiting. Well, trying to hit more or less the same counter or the same piece of information in the database 5,000 times per second by 3, because there are 3 nodes, basically it's impossible for the database to do. So that more or less that database turned out to be the bottleneck, at least for the solution we had at that point. So we decided to let's say drop the database idea, because that's the bottleneck. I mean, that's the kind of a thing that happens with something like that. So starting with 2.2, we have a new model where we completely drop this single point of sharing, and we have the OpenSIPs instances able to talk directly one each other and exchange information using a binary protocol. So it's OpenSIPs to OpenSIPs discussion. That solved the problem of the bottleneck, also solved the problem of being able to understand the nature of the data when it comes to sharing, because definitely OpenSIPs knows exactly what to expect and how to handle the information. So basically, in this case, they are simply talking one each other. They are broadcasting information between the nodes, and each node is able to, let's say, to have a global view over the status of the clustering. So we eliminate the single point of exchange. We eliminate the bottleneck. We improve how the data is shared and handled. And also this basically allows you infinite scaling, because there is nothing to prevent you to keep add nodes and nodes into this cluster. And this clustering basically will become, it's a generic support right now in OpenSIPs, and it can be reused by different modules. For example, right now it's used by the dialog support in order to broadcast the number of channels in used on each machine. So each node in the cluster can know exactly how many used channels are globally in the cluster. You can do call limitation globally. you can implement different flavors of distributed use allocation. I mean, distributed, you can do sharding or partitioning, you can distribute it as a whole, so there are different ways. Also, distributed presence server with replicating and partitioning the presence information on different nodes. But from outside, doesn't matter which node you access, you'll get the access to the whole information. And also the clustering support allows actually OpenSIPs to globally share information about, let's say, the state of different entities. Like if you do load balancing across multiple peers, the information about the status of the peers, like if they are available or not, is shared across the cluster, similar to the dispatcher and so on. So this clustering I would say support enables in OpenSIPs an exchange of information between the nodes. Right now we are working in enhancing even more this clustering to be able to dynamically add and remove peers, actually nodes, to be able to reroute data. If one node, if let's say different routes between nodes disappear, we will be able to link two nodes via other nodes available in the cluster. So I would say this is more or less in terms of scalability, the ultimate goal for an application, because so far most of the work was invested in growing the capacity of a single instance. We can do like 5,000 calls per second. We can keep millions of registration in memory, but at the end, one instance as a single application will hit a limitation. You cannot scale forever. So being able to build clusters to share information, it's the next natural step. And once again, experimenting different kind of models, once again, in the real world out there, trying solutions to see if they work, drove us to what we have right now and what we think that will definitely scale very well forever. We will have during the ClueCon a presentation from Razvan showing clustering, and actually there will be a very small, I wouldn't go so far to say demo, but run some number to visualize how things are going on inside the cluster, with nodes going up and down and rebalancing and things like that. So this is what's new in the 2.2, but what we also want to show at the ClueCon, and also it will be part of the training, because by the time of the training this will be in the public tree, is how to configure OpenSIPs as a mid-registrar. And probably this concept exists, as you all know, for quite a long time, and it's actually used by many people when front-ending a cluster of free switch instances with OpenSIPs and actually doing mid-registration. But we decided to make one step further in this direction and actually have OpenSIPs as a mid-registrar being able to do decoupling for these registrations. And this decoupling can be in terms of protocol used, like TLS, UDP, and so on. And the most important can be in terms of expiring, so for how long registrations are available. And this is a simple example just to understanding what I want to say. Basically, today we have more and more mobile devices connecting with SIP. And usually the way they address the, let's say, mobility of these devices is by having a low expiring registration, like 1 minute or so. That translates in a quite heavy load of registration on the platform. So what we want, actually what we achieved with this decoupling of registration is the ability of OpenSIPs to accept registration with a low expiring, but forwarding the registration with a higher expiring time. Like in this example, we increase the expiring and update FreeSwitch only from time to time. So basically, FreeSwitch will still have the full registration up to date, but with less messages. And OpenSIPs will take the burn and handle, let's say, all this quick registration from the mobile devices. It will buffer in terms of expiration, and it will propagate with a higher expire rate. Of course, it will do also unregister when registration terminates or it's not refreshed anymore on the user agent client side. So basically, this will allow OpenSIPs to be a full mid-registrar, not only in terms of, let's say, adding a path or changing protocol or things that were already available. In these terms, you can completely decouple also from the expiration perspective the registrations on the two sides, on the user agent client side and on the FreeSwitch side. So once again, this will be available shortly on our repository. Will be presented by Liviu, one of our core developers at ClueCon, and it will be also part of the OpenSIPs FreeSwitch training at ClueCon, because once again we think that in terms of OpenSIPs and FreeSwitch integration, that's something really valuable. There were discussions / requests for such a feature for some time, and even if it sounds simple, actually there is a lot of, let's say, hidden issues with something like that. But well, that's life. We like challenges. We never go. We are not afraid of them. So we said, okay, let's address this need and actually do this. Actually, I think Jared, we discussed about that a couple of times during the past ClueCon events, if I remember correctly, and also that need was pushed via different other channels.
Yeah, I believe so. This thing working?
Yes, we can hear you, definitely.
Yeah, I believe we did discuss that. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Sorry, Bogdan, I'm kind of out of it.
Well, it's once again the discussion was more like a concept. We tried to pick up and right now to revive that idea, because once again that happened. I mean, this kind of a feature was requested via different other channels in other situations, and including on our mailing list, there were people saying, okay, yeah, that would be beautiful to be able to do that, to reduce the flow in terms of messages to the FreeSwitch and allow the FreeSwitch to the cold routing and so on. So that's kind of a perfect example of how you can put together the two softwares, the FreeSwitch and OpenSIPs together, because as you mentioned in the very beginning of this call, that even if more or less both are in the same area of, let's say, SIP servers, engine, whatever you want to call it, they are like kind of a complementary things, a completely different kind of a beast, if I can say so.
Yeah. So OpenSIPs, I mean, is a SIP proxy. FreeSwitch is not a proxy. It's a back-to-back user agent. So where we do overlap in certain things, there are certain things that FreeSwitch does better, and there are certain things that OpenSIPs does better. For instance, you're not going to route on a same box with media and everything else 100,000 calls per second or SIP transactions per second through a FreeSwitch box. However, it's conceivable you could do that with OpenSIPs under the right configurations.
Yeah, and when it comes to the features, especially the class 5 features, not to mention that actually we don't do any kind of things media related. We do just signaling. Then definitely you have to look to the free switch for, let's say, building the valuable services.
Right. Right. So, I mean, speaking from personal experience, I've done some very, very high volume calling, and it wouldn't have been possible for us to do that without having a combination of the both. We did the heavy lifting routing on FreeSwitch, but we used OpenSIPs for call aggregation and, egress and ingress proxying so that we could have single points or a few number of points and not have to worry about how wide we're scaling FreeSwitch in the middle. And that just makes it easier to do. If you've ever had to deal with level 3, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting them to turn on another IP address is a pain, but OpenSIPs allowed us to have just a couple of IP addresses active, but I could have 15 FreeSwitch boxes behind that, and OpenSIPs just chugging along doing its job with the dispatcher module. So I couldn't complain at all.
Yeah, I think this year during the ClueCon there will be quite a lot of activity in terms of let's say new things unveiled for the first time. Well, it's kind of a double saying, but anyhow, because once again that's my personal feeling. We have, and other people do have a lot of new things coming up in terms of new functionalities, features. We already have a quite successful, not necessarily integration, but collaboration with the SIP capturing project. In terms of being able to be more flexible and to scale when it comes to the capturing, because for the SIP side, Homer actually relies as a capturing node on mainly on OpenSIPs. So we worked together with them. That's another example of working together between two projects. So we had this collaboration in order how to make it more efficient. We actually did for them some quite cutting edge features to be able to transform OpenSIPs in a HEP router. Basically, HEP, it's the protocol it's used for capturing the SIP traffic. So right now, you can actually capture HEP traffic from multiple sources. You can aggregate in the OpenSIPs, route it further, changing packages and so on. So this opens new possibilities in terms of capturing, and I would say that the Homa guys were really happy. We are also happy to work with them, and this collaboration it's keep going. We got to the level of actually integrating even the web interfaces, so to make it easier for the end users. And similar is I think you are familiar with the CG rates from Dan. Also, we are working on how to make an official integration between the CG rates and OpenSIPs. Basically, by official, I mean something that will make the end user life easier, because at the end, that will dictate how useful or not the project is for the users, if it's usable. And when it comes to the integration, that's the biggest, let's say, gap that has to be filled in. Usually, there is something between that nobody is addressing. Well, we want to work together with different projects to try to fill in all the gaps. So when somebody wants to build a platform, you have all the ingredients and also the recipe on how to put them together.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing in there, and I think with that training, along with streamlining that process, is going to just help people out a lot over time.
Yes, that was the main idea with coming up with this training, and let's say not to necessarily focus on exclusive OpenSIPs training, but basically how to put together OpenSIPs together with other applications projects in order to build something even greater that can you achieve only with OpenSIPs. And definitely there are many other ongoing similar, let's say, projects in terms of collaboration. And once again, we do this for the users, for the end users, to how to say, to present the whole picture and not only part by part.
Right. Yep. So, all right, Bogdan. So I think we've got a few people that may want to bring up some other things here in relation to OpenSIP. So I'm going to hide the screen share here. And Giovanni, you know, who we've all known for many years, has something that he wants to bring up here. And I'm just going to open the screen up a little bit so we can have a bit of a chat here. Giovanni, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and I'm really fascinated by the way from this mid-registrar function, because I was used to code this function in OpenSIPs, and having it doing automatically and for free is very, very, very good. And from the other side, I would like to stress what is the interest of having a clustering platform like OpenSIPs 2.2, because yes, it's true that a proxy can scale to so many calls, so you don't have so much a need for going for more than one box, and it will work with active passive, but this only if you do it in UDP. When you move on TCP, and that can be TLS or WebRTC, etc., that's give you a limitation on having I mean a TCP stack limitation. So having a clustering way to have multiple active proxies is a very big boom. And I want to show the latest OpenSIPs book that I'm the proud owner, and so
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Bogdan. Hey, speaking of books, don't you have one that's about to come out, Giovanni?
yes, definitely. We're in the phase of finalization of the Mastering Free Switch, a new book that will be unveiled at ClueCon. So all people, I mean, at least some people that will be in person at ClueCon will be able to buy it in print, because we will have a box of printed copies like a preview. And for all ClueCon participants, we'll have a special discount, because Pact Publishing, that is the same publisher of the OpenSIPs book, will give a special discount for the forthcoming Mastering Free Switch book.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. So I would say to everybody wanting to learn more about OpenSIPs or FreeSwitch, you guys go to Pact. It's Pact Publishing. Look for their website. The books are on Amazon and all the other websites like that, and they do have electronic copies, so you don't have to wait on it to show up. But definitely go check out Bogdan's book that he wrote, that he co-wrote there on OpenSIPs, and definitely check out the book that Anthony and Giovanni have been working on, the Mastering FreeSwitch book. It's the latest in, it's about the fourth book now, Giovanni, for FreeSwitch. So you guys go check those out. There's a lot of good information in those things. So thanks for pointing that out, Giovanni. Bogdan, I've got a question for you. In the you talked about briefly the decoupling the registrations there on FreeSwitch, so that OpenSIPs can say eat, 1 in 4 registrations. How much difficulty did you guys have implementing that?
Let's say the most difficult parts were related to, let's say, logical things. For example, combining the registration with authentication, like who's doing authentication. If you do authentication on the OpenSIP side, that's fine. But if you do like authentication on the FreeSwitch, then things get a bit messy, because as you noticed, for example, in the example I gave, there is a situation where OpenSIPs will actually generate by itself an unregister. For example, if in the middle of the expiring time on the FreeSwitch side, the user agent client simply doesn't show up, then you have to force an unregister, basically without any kind of an action from the user agent side. So that will raise some issues about how to perform the authentication. Also, if you do in a proper way, the mid-registration, you have to keep in mind all the time who is the main registrar, which in this case would be FreeSwitch. And there is something important that people tend to forget, that the main registrar, registrar, has the ability to lower the expiring time. So maybe, let's say, the endpoint requires a 1 hour registration. According to the RFC, the registrar is fully entitled to say, no, I don't want a 1 hour, I want 30 minutes. So you have to pay attention to what the main registrar is saying. So you cannot simply do blind forwarding as a mid-register. You have to also listen to what the end client says and also what the main registrar says. So as I said, maybe things seems quite simple, at the brief look, but actually there are a lot of difficult details. You know how it says, the devil is in the details. And actually that's why Liviu will have the whole presentation dedicated during the ClueCon, dedicated to this topic, because he wants to underline exactly what are all the issues with that when it comes to, once again, integrating the registration with other services like authentication. With Giovanni raised some interesting aspects about the TCP, so the transport layer, and so on and so on. So maybe by itself it's not so complicated, but when you want to try to integrate it with the rest of the things, it becomes complicated.
It's always complicated when you get all the things involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that'd be really cool. I'm actually looking forward to that presentation and the clustering presentations that you guys are going to do at ClueCon. So I really can't wait for that. It's not often that we get everybody in one place at a time. So for me, even though I'm part of the FreeSwitch team, it's really cool for me because I get to go hang out with guys like Giovanni, William, and Tony, and Brian, and Mike, and Bogdan, and Dan, and all the different guys from all the different projects, around the country. We all live in different places, and yeah, we get to talk on email and IRC, but it's not the same thing as getting to hang out in the same room, share a pint, and just talk about things and come up with new ideas. People, one of the things we like to point out is FreeSwitch didn't exist at the very first ClueCon. It was conceived there. So you guys definitely want to come out and hang out with Bogdan. All right, guys. Is anything else you want to get in there today, Bogdan?
No, just to complete what you said before, that something like ClueCon, it's a good place to boil new ideas. because as you said, let's say the whole free switch concept was boiled during the first ClueCon. So let's put all the ingredients, all the projects in there in the ClueCon, try to mix it well and see what comes up, and hopefully it will be something good.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, I'm going to open the floor up real quick. Anybody have any questions for Bogdan before we let him go back to his day, because it is getting quite late today?
I guess I do have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if I'm asking the wrong question at the wrong time. So I've been actually trying with the clustering module with the new versions, and it seems like it's not actually quite active in terms of when I shared user applications. It actually keeps on thinking that it's a high availability thing, and the IPs should be the same on both of the boxes or multiple boxes. So it was something that actually keeps bothering me, that it's not quite really the clustering I was expecting in terms of user location replication across a huge cluster. And then I guess there's a new feature request that I must say that binary interface is really cool, but I would really like to have exchange the custom AVPs, or let's say scripting AVPs via this binary interface between the multiple boxes, so that I be able to, I know there are other ways, MQ being one of them, but binary interface actually reduces the limit dependencies on different modules and servers and etc. etc. So these are just my experiences. I would be really blown away by the distributed presence, like n number of boxes, OpenSIPs boxes, acting as a single presence entity, right? So looking forward to that presentation.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that would be quite a challenge to put all those things into the presentation. Answering to your question, a couple of things that were mentioned today on in terms of clustering. Some are done, some are still in progress. And the example you gave about the clustering was particular to the user location, to let's say distributed user location. And currently there is, let's say, only one kind of a flavor supported. That's true, because that's the first version of the clustering that we have in this, let's say, with this new model. And let me think. I think at this point, 90% of the work it's done. We have some really nice developers working hard on that. So the fully distributed with partitioning and everything for the user location will be shortly available, because as I said in the slides, some of the things over there they were mentioned, even if they are still under development, they are not yet available. So we are fully aware of that limitation in the current code that you mentioned, and as I said, the big solution for it will be shortly available for the 2.3 release.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Bogdan.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Any other questions for Bogdan? All right, guys. I want to say thanks for coming out this week. You guys can catch the replay of this on YouTube. Watch for the check out the the ClueCon Twitter account for that. Twitter.com/ClueCon, and the link is there for that. Join us next week. The guys from Telnex will be here previewing some of the things that they're going to be showing off at ClueCon. And so far, it's shaping up to be real interesting with what they're going to be talking about. That'll be right back here next week at noon U.S. Central on Wednesday. And as usual, you'll be able to watch those replays on YouTube. Don't forget, click the subscribe button below this video to get the updates on those as we put them in. You'll get the announcements that way on new broadcasts that'll be coming out. Also, follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, and go to ClueCon.com and get your registration in today. Also, on ClueCon, if you're going to ClueCon, there is a hard cutoff date that's rapidly approaching for the hotel space at ClueCon. Go to ClueCon.com, click on the hotel link, and get your reservation in today. There's a link right there. You can sign up online. You don't even have to call anybody. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, ClueCon.
Thanks, Bogdan.
Bye.